You installed Linux Mint and think you're protected? Wrong. Without these 7 simple steps, your system is vulnerable and less stable than it could be. In this video, I'll show you exactly what to do to have a Linux Mint that's secure, clean, and stable for the long run. Stay until the end, because the last tip is one that many users completely ignore, and it's the one that can literally save your system. The first tip is to regularly clean up old kernels that have reached end of life. A kernel that no longer receives security updates is an open door for attackers. That's why, as soon as a kernel reaches end of life, it must be uninstalled immediately and replaced with an actively supported one. How do you manage kernels? Open Update Manager, go to View, Linux Kernels, and you'll see the complete list of installed kernels. There you can see the available versions and how long they are supported. The strategy I recommend is to have 2 kernels installed at the same time, both actively supported. Why 2? For safety. If the main kernel crashes or causes issues after an update, you have a second working kernel to boot into immediately without getting stuck. On my system, I have installed kernel 6.17, the latest, used by default, perfect for recent hardware, supported until August 2026, and kernel 6.8, backup kernel, supported until April 2029. One important thing to know, after installing a kernel and restarting, the system will automatically use the newest available kernel. You don't need to configure anything manually. The uninstall process is extremely simple. Click on the version you want and press the Remove button. If you have more than 2 kernels installed, do some cleanup. Keep the newest one and one long-term support backup. Uninstall the rest. If you see any kernel marked as end of life, delete it immediately, whether it's 1 or more. The simple rule to remember: a maximum of 2 kernels on the system, both actively supported. No end-of-life kernel on the system ever. The second tip is about video drivers, one of the most common sources of instability on Linux. If you have a dedicated NVIDIA or AMD graphics card, Linux Mint gives you the option to install proprietary drivers. This is where many users make a classic mistake. They install the newest available driver, assuming that newer automatically means better. Wrong. The newest driver can be unstable, may contain unresolved bugs, or may be incompatible with your kernel version. Linux Mint has an intelligent system that recommends the most suitable driver for your hardware, tested and verified. How do you access Driver Manager? Go to the menu, type Driver Manager in the search box, and open it. The system will scan your hardware and display the available drivers. You'll see one of them labeled Recommended. That is the one you install, no exceptions. The wrong video driver can cause a black screen on boot, freezes, graphical tearing, or an inability to start the graphical interface. These are extremely unpleasant issues, especially for someone new to Linux. The rule is simple. The recommended driver is the correct driver. Don't experiment with other versions if your system is working well. Stability always comes first. The third tip is one that many people skip entirely because they don't see it as a priority. It's about the firewall. Linux Mint comes with a pre-installed firewall called UFW, Uncomplicated Firewall. But here's the catch. Even though it's installed, it is not enabled by default. You have to turn it on manually. Go to the menu, type Firewall in the search box, and open Firewall Configuration. You'll be prompted for your administrator password, enter it, and the application will open. Why do you need a firewall? A firewall controls the network traffic coming into and going out of your system. Without it, your system's ports can be exposed to scans and attacks, especially if you're connected to a public network or a Wi-Fi hotspot. Under the Status section, click the button to enable the firewall. The default settings are perfect for the average user. All incoming traffic is blocked, all outgoing traffic is allowed. If you need to open certain ports for specific applications, you can do so anytime from the same menu. Enable the firewall now, don't put it off. It's one of the simplest things you can do for the security of your system. Tip number 4 is about one of the riskiest behaviors I see in new Linux users: installing programs from unknown sources. Linux Mint comes with Software Manager, a full application store with thousands of verified, free, and safe programs. This is where you should install everything you need. Why? Because every application in Software Manager is verified and comes from the distribution's official repositories. Someone has made sure that the software is compatible with your system and does not contain malicious code. On top of that, Flatpak is integrated directly into Software Manager, so you have access to an even wider range of applications, all from the same place, without looking anywhere else. Avoid PPAs. A PPA is an external repository added manually to your system. They are not trustworthy, they can be abandoned, poorly maintained, or even malicious. A bad PPA can destabilize your entire system and create serious problems with future updates. The rule is simple. If the program you want exists in Software Manager, you install it from there, period. Never install a program downloaded from a random website, no matter how convincing the recommendation on some forum might seem. Software Manager is your friend. Use it. The fifth tip sounds obvious, but it's the most ignored one. Keep your system updated regularly. Linux Mint automatically scans in the background and notifies you when updates are available. You'll see an orange dot in the bottom right corner of the taskbar. That's the signal that your system has pending updates. Updates are not just about new features. Most of them contain security patches, fixes for vulnerabilities discovered in software. The longer you wait to apply an update, the more time you remain exposed to those vulnerabilities. When you see the orange dot, don't ignore it. Click on it, the Update Manager opens, and you press Install Updates. The best approach is to update as soon as updates appear, or at least before shutting down your PC. If you want to fully automate the process, open Update Manager, go to Edit, Preferences, enter the Automation tab, and enable automatic installation of updates. From the same place, you can also enable automatic updates for Cinnamon Spices and Flatpak applications. This way, your system stays current without any intervention on your part. An up-to-date system is a secure system. The sixth tip is a strategic one that few people mention, but it can make a real difference in your Linux Mint experience. Linux Mint is a very stable distribution across all its versions. If you want to be as safe as possible, the golden rule is choose the 0.3 version. Linux Mint releases major versions, for example, Mint 22, which go through several subversions, 22, 22.1, 22.2, and 22.3. The 0.3 version is the most mature of the series. Any minor bugs have been resolved, drivers are well integrated, and compatibility with diverse hardware is optimized to the fullest. If the 0.3 version you want hasn't been released yet, it's better to stay on the previous 0.3 version, meaning 21.3, rather than installing a new version that is still in the process of maturing. Patience is the best strategy. For an already stable system, the 0.3 version makes it even more dependable. This is the tip I consider the most important on the entire list. Nobody wants to think about the scenario where their system breaks down, but it happens. A bad update, a problematic driver, a disk error, a power outage during a critical operation, all of these can lead to a system that no longer boots. If you have no backup, you're in serious trouble. If you have a backup, you're at ease. Use the Timeshift application, which comes pre-installed in Linux Mint. Timeshift creates snapshots of your system, essentially photographs of your system's state at a given moment. If something goes wrong, you roll back to the previous snapshot and you're saved. But, and this is the key point, store the backup on an external USB drive or an external hard disk, not on the same drive your system runs on. If the main drive fails physically, a backup sitting on that same drive is completely useless. How does recovery work? You boot Linux Mint from a live USB stick, the same ISO you used for installation. From the live environment, you can open Timeshift and restore the system from the backup on the external USB, even if the installed system no longer boots. It's a simple, guided process that requires no advanced knowledge. How often should you back up? Weekly for the average user. Without exception, before any major operation, a system upgrade, a kernel change, or the installation of new drivers. Always keep your live USB stick with the Linux Mint ISO within reach. Together with a Timeshift backup, you have a complete recovery system that can get you out of any situation. Don't ask yourself whether you'll ever need a backup. Ask yourself when. Those are the 7 essential tips for the security and stability of Linux Mint. Let's do a quick recap. 1. Remove end-of-life kernels periodically. 2. Install only the recommended video driver, don't experiment. 3. Enable the firewall, don't leave it disabled. 4. Install programs only from Software Manager or verified sources. 5. Update regularly, at least once a week. 6. Choose 0.3 versions for maximum stability. 7. Backup with Timeshift to an external USB and always keep a live stick within reach. If you apply these 7 tips, you'll have a Linux Mint system that runs excellently for years without any major headaches. If you found this video useful, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and write in the comments which of these tips you didn't know before. See you soon!